Nothing takes the place of persistence. Do you remember that little essay so popular 30 or 40 years ago? It's true. Nothing takes the place of persistence once you know that what you're seeking is right for you. When I resigned my cushy job at CBS in Chicago in 1950 and started my own program on WGN, I also agreed to help sell time on my show by calling on advertising agencies. So I'd write my next day's program at night at home, then first thing the next morning I'd start hitting the advertising agencies to tell them why their clients should be advertising on my daily radio program. I was completely unknown in the Chicago market or anywhere else for that matter. My time on the air amounted to just 15 minutes each afternoon. My prospects would say, "No, sorry, your program is not in drive time." That was a ridiculous cliché, since at any time in Chicago there were a zillion cars on the roads and highways, to say nothing of the 10 zillion people listening to their radios at home in about a 6-state area. But that's the kind of answer I got, and so I became acquainted with the word no. After making calls on numerous agencies and getting nothing but no's, I would then rush to my tiny office in the Tribune Tower, get my program ready for broadcasting, and when the little red light came on, I was to be cheerful. Month after month, I made the rounds, and as I did, my thoughts often drifted back to those untroubled days in the quiet, air-conditioned studios at CBS, when all that was expected of me was the occasional exercise of my larynx. Stay with it, I would tell myself. One time I surprised a gentleman standing next to me in the men's room of a Chicago high-rise by actually muttering it aloud. "What was that? Sorry, I didn't hear you very well." "Oh, well, nothing at all. Just talking to myself, I suppose." Embarrassing, yes, but no less important for that. Stay with it. I knew that if I could just stay with it long enough to earn the respect and notice of the Chicago advertising community, I could succeed at my project. Stay with it, I would say to myself on those cold, snowy mornings and hot, humid summer days. Stay with it, I would say to myself on those heartbreakingly beautiful mornings when all in the world I wanted to do was play hooky, play golf, or walk along the lakefront in the park. So I made my calls, and I broadcast my programs, and I heard otherwise intelligent agency people say to me, "Radio doesn't work for us." I would then say, "When you say radio doesn't work for us, it's the same as a commanding general saying tanks don't work for us or airstrikes don't work for us. The effective commander makes best use of all forces available to him, and so does the good advertising executive. What do you mean radio doesn't work for us? What radio? Which radio? Which program or personality? Surely some facet of an industry as broad, pervasive, and successful as American radio will work for you. In fact, my program will work for you in Chicago. I'll see to it that my program does a good job for you and returns sales at many times the volume of its small cost." So I'd win the argument and lose the sale. Once he'd made his statement, he had to stand behind it, or run the risk of being a reasonable, flexible, intelligent advertising executive, and that was indeed a great deal to expect. It was in Croc's old bookstore on Michigan Avenue that I found the copy of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, in which I'd found that 6-word secret to success I'd been searching for so many years. I took the book back into Croc's bookstore and pigeonholed Adolph Croc himself. "Buy time on my radio program, and I'll sell this book by the thousands of copies," I said. "We've tried radio. It doesn't work for us," he replied. "Don't confuse my radio program with the word radio. My program will work for you with this book and with other books in your store as well." He thought a moment, then he said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you 40 cents a copy for every copy of the book you sell." Well, I wasn't supposed to work on commission. I was supposed to bring in contracts, 13-week, 26-week, or 52-week contracts. "You've got a deal," I said. Not since the publication of Gone with the Wind had old man Croc seen orders for a book come in the way they came in for the next few weeks, as he wrote me very sizable checks for the thousands of orders at 40 cents a copy. He wished he'd followed my advice and simply bought airtime on my program. It would have been infinitely cheaper. He promptly rectified the matter. I got him to write a letter telling what my program had accomplished for him, and from that time on, with the proof the followers of the world need before they'll make a move, My program began to attract sponsors. It grew from 15 minutes a day to a half hour, then to a full hour, then an hour in the afternoon and a half hour in the morning, then to additional half-hour daily television program, all happily sponsored. On the program, I talked about things I found to be interesting: books, philosophy, people, events. My only rule for subject matter was that it had to be interesting to me. If it was interesting to me, I felt it would be interesting to a large section of the radio audience, and I was right. I've long thought it shameful the way the broadcasting industry as a whole has underestimated the listener. I think the radio listener wants more than repeated news, weather, and music. Radio is certainly one of the greatest educational opportunities in the world, the only rule being, keep it interesting. My habit of muttering to myself, "Stay with it," had paid off, just as it always does. The world is full of those who tried to get out of the doldrums and, meeting with difficulty and repeated turn-downs, retreated back to the big crowd. What's really amazing are the number who've made a sortie into a business of their own and, failing, have fallen back never to try again. Why should succeeding at a business of one's own be easier than learning to ski or play the piano? We're likely to fail at first. It's part of the learning process, but it's no reason to give up. We learn something important from every failure. It's staying with it that separates the winners from the losers. And staying with it applies to so much that is good and healthful in life. Failures aren't the end of the world, far from it. If they were, no human being would ever learn to walk, or speak, or ride a bicycle, or obtain an education. We take early failures for granted in so many things. Yet when we attempt something, as adults, something as difficult as going into business, we become so self-conscious. We become so concerned about what our friends and acquaintances might think.